Missouri trip. My best friend Matt and I wanted another adventure and decided to go someplace where we had not been before to ride our motorcycles on trails that took a little different skill set. He found a place in Black, Missouri, operated by a motorcycle dealer out of St. Louis. They would take people on long trail rides through a park and miles of trails. At that time, they had a lot of notoriety because they were part of our ISDT team. Our chance to ride with the best was too hard to pass up. We saved our money and finally had enough for a long weekend. Matt and I had been friends ever since our football teams competed in high school, and we double dated with our girlfriends, who were also our best friends. We were in our 20s and had a reputation for getting into trouble from time to time. Our wives laid down the law before we left on our trip and said if we were going to drink beer, we had to wait until we arrived. Of course, we agreed right away. I borrowed my dad's truck. Matt and I loaded all that we needed and proceeded on our adventure. We traveled along the highway toward Black, talking about how great it would be and how much fun we were going to have and how much we would learn, blah, blah, blah. We thought we needed a snack about an hour into our trip, so we opened the cooler in the front seat between us. Now there were sandwiches, pop, cold beer, neatly stacked in layers of ice to keep cool. At that time, you had to have a fancy truck for air conditioning. This was not the kind of truck we had, and it was hot. We removed a couple of sandwiches and looked at each other. We agreed it was hot and that cold beer would be far more refreshing than pop. So we pulled out 2 cold beers and drank them with our sandwiches. The sandwiches were good and the beer was even better. We drank 2 more about half an hour later to cool off again. By the time we got to St. Louis, the beer was gone. Understand, it was to keep cool. If we drank that much pop, it would have made us sick. We knew our wives didn't want us to be sick. After arriving in the small town of Black, we unloaded the truck, took a shower, and thought it would be fun to go out and get a good meal. There wasn't much to offer. We saw some teenage kids sitting on a corner just talking. We stopped, made our introductions, and asked them where we could go for something to eat and have a good time. They immediately told us to go to a club in Framingham. They gave directions, and we left as the sun was about to set. We drove down this old mining road with nothing on either side and the lights nowhere. We didn't think we could ever find the place. This is when we turned the corner. A bar in the middle of nowhere. For those of you who have seen the movie Porky's, this had to have been shot there. If nothing else, they had this place in mind when they made the movie. We parked the truck with the rest of the trucks. There must have been a rule. No parking if you don't drive a truck. So we fit right in. To our surprise, a huge fat man sitting holding an axe handle as we walked up to the door. He looked like Jabba the Hutt. He must have been 6'5" and weighed about 400 pounds. Just as we were about to go in, he stuck the axe handle across the door and in a deep, gravelly voice said, "Who the hell are you boys, and where are you from?" The words shot out of our mouths as fast as we could speak. He scared the hell out of both of us. "What are you going to drink tonight?" We told him gin and tonic. To this day, I have no idea why we said that. Both of us at that time normally drank beer. I guess it just sounded good at the time. He told us, "This is Missouri, and you must buy a bottle and leave it behind the bar. When it's done, I'll tell you, and you'll buy another one." Of course, we agreed. He let us in, and we purchased the bottle for an obnoxious price. We were then escorted to our seats by a huge man. He put the big axe handle on top of the table, turned to us, and growled, "If you want to look hard at this stick, and then take a real hard look at me." He picked up the stick, pounded it on the floor, and said, "You hear that?" We both answered yes. Then he said, "I know everybody who comes in here, and I like these people, and I don't know you. So if there's any trouble here tonight, I'll figure it's your fault. If it's your fault, I'll hit you with this stick. Got me?" Scared to death at this point, we told him we wouldn't see any trouble from us. Yeah, right. We sat down at our table to have a bite to eat and started looking around. just shooting the bull. At that point, we saw the largest collection of rednecks we'd ever seen in one place at one time. We were both from small town America, and rednecks were part of our lives. We grew up with them. They were our friends and neighbors, but this was different. We were the strangers. About an hour later, the band started up, and they were playing some good music. We got in the spirit. So after a while, we asked the girls sitting behind us if they wanted to dance. Nothing special, just a dance. We were told we had finished our bottle after about another hour or so. And of course, we were obligated to buy another bottle. That bottle wasn't empty, but we weren't about to argue and just paid the man. Getting well into the night, and as we were about to leave, one of the girls sitting behind us asked Matt if he would like to dance. I said, "What the hell," and sat back down. The band started, and out there they went to dance. I was drinking the last swallow of my drink when the band went silent. I looked up, and all I could see was Matt and another guy exchanging words. They were not having any failure to communicate. It seems the girl he danced with was married, and her husband didn't want her dancing with strangers. Then I heard that awful sound. A thump, 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 coming from the darkness near the door. The fat man was in the shadows, and I knew in my bones he was going to hit us both. I got up, ran as fast as I could toward Matt, and grabbed him by the arm. We both banged into the door at the same time, and it flew open. Out we went into pitch darkness. We ran as fast as we could to our truck, jumped in, revved the motor, and sped away, throwing gravel everywhere. As we looked in the rearview mirror, we saw a bunch of guys running toward their trucks. Once we turned onto the main gravel road, we drove as fast as we could and could see in the rearview mirror that the first redneck truck had turned our way. Scared to death and way too drunk, we turned off our truck headlights. Matt kept watching, and I turned as many corners as I could to lose the guys behind us. Finally, there were no truck lights in the rearview mirror. Suddenly, with our headlights still off, we had bright lights coming right at us. They were high off the ground. They honked with warning as they passed. We just kept driving. When we turned the next corner, the lights ahead were almost blinding. We had just driven into the pit of a granite mine. "Oh, shit," was all either one of us could say. Just about that time, we drove past a pickup truck, and a man jumped out to flag us down. We slammed on the brakes. He took off his hard hat and threw it on the ground. He yelled, "What the hell are you guys doing here?" We made our apologies and told him what had happened. Thank God he laughed. Seeing we were really in no condition to drive, and considering the fact we were as lost as we'd ever been, he had one of his guys get in our truck and drive us back to the motel. When he got out of our truck, he never said a word as he climbed into the mine truck they had sent to follow us. We never saw any of them again. We got up the next morning with the worst hangovers in our lives. When we looked out the window, we could see the mine just down the street from our motel. What a night. We're glad to be alive and in one piece.